Ravens are going for 2. They're either going to win or they're going to lose by 1. As it is, it's a 7-point win for Kansas City. Thursday, the 75th regular season victory for Patrick Mahomes. He got there in 97 starts, the fewest by any quarterback since starts were tracked in 1950. The only others to get there in fewer, couple of legends, Tom Brady and Roger Staubach. Isiah Pacheco with Michelle Steele after the 7-point win.
I gotta ask you, it feels like this team is fired up about that win. What was your reaction to that finish?
It was a great team win. It was all about the effort and the mentality. Who was going to come out on top? Great team over there. You see, it came down to the end results.
On your touchdown in the second quarter, did you know that Patrick Mahomes got into the pile to push you into the end zone?
I was wondering where that second push came from. I thought I had a little ick, but I knew Pat was in that in the little show.
Now, I'm guessing that coach does not want him to do that anymore, but what does that tell you about 15?
Hey, that's called family. Forget about me. I love you. Shout out to Rutgers, baby.
All right, I got to ask you about what happened in the sideline right before the TD. You felt through some things. You got a little sick a little bit. Did any part of you maybe want to stay out the game?
No, I fell on the ball. I got aired out during the moment and just kind of found my breath, my wind. Coach Reed looked at me. I looked at him. Let's freaking go. Let's get this win.
Great to have Damien Woody with us as he is Thursday nights during the NFL season. An incredible start to the year. Let's just start with I think the obvious. These are two excellent football teams that we presume we will see late into the winter, into the playoffs. Fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the result it'll be forgotten perhaps as time goes on. But if you're the Ravens, you're like, man, they're an inch away from being able to go for 2 and get the victory. I want to ask you about the Flowers play because he was wide. What happens on that play from what you saw?
It's almost like a scramble drill, Scott. Like usually, those type of plays are practice where the quarterback is running around and then you're taught as a receiver to go with the flow of the quarterback. But I think in this particular situation, if Zay Flowers had just sat still right in that hole and made himself available to Lamar Jackson, that would have been a touchdown right there. But when you're in this time of at this point in the game, man, you're trying to do whatever you can to try to win the thing.
And it's hard to explain unless you've been on the field and I've been standing there waiting for games to end. You have 22 enormous human beings in a tiny little plot of land. It's hard to find room. I give Kansas City a ton of credit because it seemed that largely they were able to keep Lamar off of his ability to make on-schedule throws. So much of the completed pass tonight were improvisational. That's the credit to Kansas City's secondary, is it not?
Absolutely, but Lamar Jackson had his cape on tonight.
Didn't he?
Like Lamar Jackson had literally like 400 yards of offense just by himself.
Right.
And we talked about during the game how, in the AFC Championship game, how Lamar Jackson didn't really utilize his legs enough. Well, I think that he put that to bed early and often tonight because we saw that in this game, the Baltimore Ravens had 3 new starters on the offensive line. They struggled some in pass protection, but Lamar Jackson was just utilizing his legs left and right in this game.
This was one of the plays where it could be the offensive line. It could also be the fact that Jones is in that front for Kansas City. That's such an underappreciated part of what makes them great is that defense. But they were able to get that fumble there. But Baltimore's defense held them to 3. They were able to largely keep Kansas City from getting away from them. But how about Xavier Worthy, a rookie out of Texas? I mean, you hear about speed guys, right?
Right.
Okay. But let's see what it looks like, right? Saturday and Sunday, they're only separated by a couple of hours on the calendar, but it's very different. What did you see in terms of Kansas City's ability to implement his speed into what they want to do? Well,
it's so much what we talk about with Xavier Worthy is what he did at the combine, but this guy's a football player. He's not
just a track guy.
Not just a track guy. And we saw the Kansas City Chiefs early in the game utilize him, put the ball in his hands early, and you saw him make that mad dash for the first touchdown. And then obviously the second receiving touchdown, he got behind the defense, which he's going to do quite often because of the speed he has. And you saw his impact in the game. He's going to have, as the season goes on, he's going to have a bigger and bigger impact because, again, the one thing you can't teach is speed, and that's what he's going to bring to the table in this offense.
The touchdown didn't count for the Ravens, but they're so aggressive. And it cost them. A couple years ago, they rolled the dice and they crapped out on a number of occasions, but they've shown this is what we're going to do. How do you endorse that philosophy? Because that immediately, and again, they didn't get to go for 2 because the toe of Likely's on the line. We're going for 2. We're trying to get out of here with a dub. You like that in this instance?
I love it because you're on the road. You're on the road. You've clawed yourself back. You essentially tied the game. And in this situation, why not go for the win? I think that's what most coaches would do in this situation. Instead of playing for overtime, again, you're on the road against the defending world champions. Let's go out here. Put the ball in your best player's hand, and Lamar Jackson. Man. I mean, that's literally like his bunion just over the line right there.
Why man got to have bunions?
Yeah.
Why man got to have bunions? So much of the bulk of the game right now gets lost because of how it ended. But when Baltimore goes back and they put on the tape, and they look at the amount of flags that they had thrown at their feet for formational penalties, what were you seeing as a guy who made his living up there on the line trying to get lined up? You're shaking your head. I mean, what was all that about?
It's a whole new world, Scott.
What is it?
It's like, get your behind up there on the line of scrimmage. Because for so long, and I've obviously played offensive tackle, played on the offensive line, you would kind of creep back a little bit more to buy yourself some time against some of these premier edge rushes where now, it seems like the league is trying to reset things a little bit and give those defensive guys a little bit of an advantage here.
Well, but I'm sure Baltimore is going to say, didn't they do it also?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it didn't get flagged nearly as much on Kansas City, did it?
Well, listen, it might be a little bit of home cooking there.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
it might be. I'm just saying it might be.
Might be.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, everybody's excited that the NFL's back, and it's an incredible game with 2 great teams. I do think it's reasonable to say that at some point the ref show in this game was a bit excessive. You agree?
Yeah, I think they were trying to send a message.
And that feels reasonable in a sense that you just want to let everybody know, hey, look, we're calling this. I mean, everyone's watching this tonight. So dudes that play from left tackle to right tackle across the NFL, like, yo, make sure that we're lined up correctly, right?
Yeah, listen. Moving forward, I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy, especially tomorrow, with the primetime game down in Brazil.
Sure.
You don't want to be the guy that's getting called out.
Okay, so Baltimore comes this close. There's a bunch of penalties, this and that. Kansas City won the football game. Let's not lose that for 1 second. They have potentially a star in the making in Worthy, certainly a guy whose speed is going to translate. But we talked about this as we watched them, and this is where I land with the Chiefs. They were really pedestrian last year for about a month and change. Lost 4 of 6, lost at home 3 times. Then they got to the playoffs, and nobody was yelling louder than me. Let's see Mahomes go on the road. Then he went to Buffalo, went to Baltimore. They beat the Dolphins, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Niners in a row. And it's like, are there any questions? Not from me, no. And so it almost doesn't matter to me what they do. I'm just going to presume that they're going to be just fine to great. And a night like tonight, to me, just shows you how difficult it is to beat them at all. Like, what's your sense of who the Chiefs are as they try to make a 3rd straight Super Bowl and win it?
So it reminds me so much of like New England days where, we were just so dominant. We would find all different types of ways.
Smile. Not as big a smile as he had on Monday night. Not as big a smile as you had Monday night when Boston College
we'll get into that.
Went down to Doak and got a dub.
That's right.
But I mean, look, you lived it when you knew our best is you got no shot to beat. But maybe our B- games you can't touch that too. What's that like?
Well, we had talked earlier about more teams find ways to lose games and win them.
Correct.
And so, but when you're as supremely talented as the Kansas City Chiefs, and you got 15, you got Andy Reid, like that guy can make plays at the right time that just push you over the top.
Yeah.
I played with a guy like that, number 12. Like when we needed to play, he could make that play, and that's really the difference between teams that are really good and guys who are like all-time greats, and that's what we're seeing out of Patrick Mahomes.
Yep. So, I mean, it's the trajectory the guy's on as he passes a Chiefs great in Len Dawson tonight, and obviously the young man's in his 20s. He's going to put the number so far out of reach that it'll never be encroached upon. I can't imagine. I'm just looking at these numbers. It was just, what a fun night, right? I mean, we're all excited all day long. Man,
crazy.
Nearly 4 hundo.
Yeah.
And Likely's toes on the line. Kansas City gets the win. Look.